we have 5 promises here as part of our plan. And the first one is that we need our students to feel safe, both in school and going to and from school. And for the regulars here, this data point is not new to you. Half of our elementary school students don't feel safe in hallways and bathrooms by their own account. And 80% of our middle school and high school students don't feel safe going to and from school. So as far as how we're addressing those concerns, in the next month, we're going to be releasing a comprehensive student and school safety plan, and that's going to ensure that all of our students have access to a safe and warm environment. And as part of that plan, we're also going to take safe corridors to the next level. And so safe corridors you'll know about by now, making sure that our students feel safe going to and from school, the walkers in particular. So right now, that is just a partnership with us and the Camden County Police Department and the Mayor's Office. The plan outlines the fact that we want to work with neighborhood groups, we want to work with local businesses, with churches, nonprofit groups. We can also provide safe havens in the event there are incidents. Some of you may know we had an active shooter in East Camden earlier this year. We had the incident near Centerville where a gentleman walked down the street carrying an AK-47 and opened fire. So we need to make sure our students know where those safe haven spots are. And both of those incidents, by the way, happened in the afternoon during dismissal time. So it's critical that those systems are in place, and that's the work we're doing right now. We're also going to move aggressively to improve the technology in our schools. And so we don't have enough security cameras, we don't have enough smart technology, and at Camden High School, in particular, there are 87 points of egress. So there are 87 different exits in the building, and we need to make sure that all of those points of egress are being properly monitored. We're also going to reorganize and retrain our security personnel. So we need to make sure that they have the training, the professional development they need, and the best practices of school security. And so one of the themes of our training, and this is a policy decision that we're making, we want to move away from zero tolerance school security policies and move towards restorative justice. And we spoke about this with our student board reps in some detail. It's not to say that we are zero tolerance in every single school, but we are inconsistent in the way that we approach things. So without naming school names, I will tell you that a couple of weeks ago, one of our schools, a student was passing Advil to another student. They were caught, I don't know if it was initially by a teacher, but eventually went to school security and they called the police. And so the police then showed up and interrogated those students, again, over Advil, they should have had Advil. That doesn't necessarily require the police being there. That places a stigma on the students, on the school, that doesn't belong to be there. And we need to think deeply about how we can address those types of concerns. Now, at the same time, we need to make sure that there's a very clear protocol for when we do need to call the police. So some of you may have heard this story in New York City where an autistic student walked out of the building in the middle of the day. This happened months ago now. And it took school security to about 45 minutes before they notified the authorities. And a few weeks later, that student's body was found in the street. We need to avoid tragedies like that and think about what are those protocols and systems that we need to put in place. And in moving towards restorative justice best practices, we, as part of the plan, are initiating a pilot with an organization called Positive Behavior Support in Schools to infuse that professional development throughout the entire school. So not just schools, we're working with the principal and the teachers to make sure that they are promoting better behavior by not taking kids out of the classroom, by not being punitive, right? Working with our students. Our second promise is about better facilities. So I think about these first 2 promises as just basic conditions and basic rights our students deserve. Half of our buildings were constructed before 1928. Many of those buildings are in deplorable state. You've heard some of the concerns from community members already here today, students, and we need to move quickly to address that basic condition, that basic right our students deserve. So at Sumner School, we had a bathroom leak down into the kitchen, causing significant health hazard concerns that took us days, if not weeks, to address. At Camden High, over the winter break, there was an AC unit which froze in the library. It then thawed and turned the room into a sauna, which then leaked down and flooded 3 classrooms below it. And that's just the latest incident at Camden High School. So we are laser focused on addressing these concerns, and these are big concerns, require hundreds of millions of dollars of repair. It's not going to happen overnight. We have a couple options at our disposal. The first is the School Development Authority. We are advocating vigorously. And in fact, tomorrow we are sitting down with Charles McKenna, who's the head of the School Development Authority. We're trying to get him to come visit Camden High tomorrow. His schedule's tight, but he is committing to coming and visiting Camden High. We are focusing on the SDA to renovate the buildings that need to be renovated, but we are particularly focused on those that are in the most need. And Camden High, as noted in our plan, is one of the schools we're going to push the SDA to fund to make sure that it is no longer neglected. It has been neglected for decades, and that building deserves tens of millions of dollars of attention. So I just want to make that point very clear that we are focusing the SDA on Camden High, in addition to showing them a 5-year facilities plan, which we don't have ready right here and now. But that's also included in the strategic plan that we are working towards updating a 5-year facilities plan. So our other option, as it relates to facilities funding, the SDA, again, we're going to start there, and we're going to advocate, but the SDA hasn't historically moved at the speed of light. They have not constructed a single building in the state of New Jersey in 4 years. But we're going to be cautiously optimistic. There's new leadership there. We're meeting with them tomorrow, and the state has been focused on Camden. But our other opportunity here is the Urban Hope Act. I'm going to spend a little bit more time in this presentation giving you a process update there. The Urban Hope Act, as some of you may know, is an opportunity to do two things. One, develop a high potential, high quality school, proven educators to come in and run that school. And we're going to spend a lot of time, to the extent we make any decisions on the Urban Hope Act and the Renaissance schools, as they're called, to have transparent dialogue with the community. Now, the second benefit of Urban Hope, to the extent we open any Renaissance schools, is it comes with facilities funding. So it allows us to either revitalize an existing facility that's in disrepair or build from the ground up a new facility that our families get to benefit from. So that is also noted in the strategic plan. Again, I'm going to give you a process update, but I'm going to acknowledge that these types of decisions create certain uncertainty, create types of uncertainty in the community with our educators, with our staff, with the central office. And we are approaching these conversations with care and with transparency, and we will continue to do that. Our third promise is about excellent schools, and it's broken up into two parts. The first is student support. So we want to focus on the unique needs of each and every child here at campus. Their unique intellectual, social, and emotional needs. So if you think about safety and facilities as being basic rights, basic conditions, we now have to think about what's also happening inside the school building. And so, again, I touched on this with my initial comments here. We need to do more to make sure that the rigor is there in our schools, and our students are better prepared for life beyond high school. It doesn't have to be a 4-year college program, but we need to make sure our students have that choice. And I do believe that right now that often they don't have that choice is made for them. So we need to think deeply about the multiple pathways to success. So it's not just about 4-year college diplomas, but it is also about career and technical educational opportunities. So part of our plan calls out the fact that over the next year and a half, we're aiming to bring vocational programming back to the district. We're going to work to create new career and technical educational pathways for students, but also focusing on college readiness and rigor. So we're going to ensure that Algebra 1 is an expectation for all students in 8th grade. We need to bring more AP courses here. We need to make sure SAT tutoring is an expectation. It's a course it's an elective or an after-school offering in our schools. And then the last thing I'll note here is that for some of our most at-risk students, particularly thinking about students who are coming from shelters, they require even different type of problem solving, different type of intervention. And we call it out as a goal, and this is a big goal, it's ambitious, it's costly, but a residential school. So a boarding school where those students would benefit from a 24-hour intervention, they would actually live in a dormitory. And obviously we would ensure that there's demand for this, and our listening tour, we heard from a couple neighborhood groups that this is something they'd be very interested in. But I think it's a unique idea, and it's one that we're excited about, and we're going to pursue it. Second part of our third promise here is about excellent teaching and learning. And we're excited about, really excited about this strand of our plan, and namely in calling out that under the leadership of Ms. Katrina McCombs, we want to make pre-K universal. So we want to create universal early childhood access here at Camden. As an avid district, some of you may know that we have the resources to fund this, but it's up to us to roll up our sleeves to make that goal a reality. Right now, and Ms. McCombs, you should correct my data here, it's under 90% of our students, about 85, 88% are in the pre-K program. 89%. So we should be at 100%. That is the goal. Every single 3- and 4-year-old in the city of Camden has access to a pre-K program. And I don't need to tell this group the importance of early childhood education and the benefits to that student's educational journey. So we're going to go door to door and make sure that our families understand that this is an option. And to the extent we need to seek additional facilities to make sure that we have enough seats, that's a good problem to have, and we'll be excited to do that. We also want to make critical investments in our educators here and our school leaders to provide high-quality, job-embedded professional development. It's no secret that as we make complex decisions to align, for example, align our curriculum to Common Core, there's a lot of troubleshooting there that needs to happen. There are a lot of questions. End-of-unit assessments are a concern that have come up time and time again in our various teacher talks and town halls and listening for events. And so we are working to align our resources to provide these types of professional development opportunities. And a couple other items just to quickly mention here. As part of the great teaching and learning, again, in the same, as I mentioned, the Urban Hope Act, just as it impacts our facilities and provides us better facilities, again, it does allow us the opportunity to develop new schools from the ground up, and it does allow us to potentially transform existing underperforming schools. And as I mentioned again, we will be transparent about that process, and we want to have a meaningful community dialogue. Our fourth promise, and this is one that we have spent a lot of time discussing in this forum, and that's about being service-oriented to our parents. And so whether I was at a community meeting in Fairview, a neighborhood association meeting in Liberty Park, and all the other town hall sessions, this was maybe the most consistent point of feedback outside of safety and the state of our facilities. When parents have issues, they don't know who to call, they'll try 5 different numbers in the central office. There are complications there. It's not to say every single time there's a question they don't get an answer, but for the most part, it's hard to find an answer. And so our plan here calls out several initiatives to address that concern as a district superintendent. I owe you more. We owe you more. And we want to make sure that there is one-stop shopping and there's true customer service. So specifically here, we've discussed having a school catalog that highlights all of the public school programs and operations of all schools in the districts. That includes charter schools, that includes Renaissance schools. And we need to make sure that in that catalog, parents know all the schools that are around them. What are the extracurricular activities? What are the programmatic themes of the schools, et cetera? Because as you all who are parents and have looked for schools, you want that information. And whether that's your neighborhood school or a school that may be a little bit further away, you want that information. You deserve to know whether there are safety incidents at that school. You deserve to know what the culture and climate is like at that school. So we want to put all that information in one catalog. We also want to ensure that the enrollment experience is improved for our students and for our parents. So right now, if you're a parent in Centerville and you want to know what options are available to you, you have to go drive into H.B. Wilson and pick up an application. You have to go and drive to the 4 or 5 other schools that are near H.B. Wilson. If you're looking for a high school, you have to physically show up at each of our 3 specialized high schools or go to Camden High or H.B. Wilson. And what happens is oftentimes you show up and nobody's there to answer your question. You can't track down the right person to answer your question. And what's more, you have to fill out multiple applications. which in and of itself is time consuming. And a lot of our parents, as you all know, don't have the time in their busy days, given so many of them are working around the clock. And so we want to streamline that experience and in one application lay out what are the various options they have. And then they get ultimately an offer that matches to the unique needs of their student. So what that means is that we've got to work together as a system of schools and pull in the charter schools, the Renaissance schools, and ensure that we create this system that's in the best interest of families. And it's also a system that ensures that all schools are playing by the same rules. We have heard stories of certain schools around the city that have counseled out students, or kicked out students, or we cherry-pick their students. And so we're not here to point the finger at any one school right now, but we need to have a consistent set of policies. And I should also note that we have heard those stories from all different types of schools. It's not as though it's a problem that's just situated in one school in particular, but we also have similar incidents, again, at all different types of schools. And then the last thing we'll say here is that we are committed to opening 4 new family and community centers throughout the city. And this is an effort to work in conjunction with the parent centers that already exist in our district. But we want to, outside of our school buildings, to provide these community centers so we can come together and we can share resources with all parents in Camden. And again, allow for parents to access resources such as the catalog, such as the universal enrollment system. Our 5th promise here is that the central office will operate at a new level of transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness. In spite of our funding formula, which is one of the highest in the country, we have faced budget deficits in the years past, and while we are still searching for some answers quickly in our current budget situation, we expect there to be challenges that I've inherited as your superintendent, and so we've got to think deeply about where we potentially streamline in areas where we're over-invested. But at the same time, we need to think about investing in areas that are under-resourced. It's not as simple as to say, we've got to come in and cut because we don't have enough funds. There are numerous anecdotes that have shown me that in some of our schools, even though we have certain resources, so let me call out smart boards as an example. We actually have quite a number of smart boards in this district, almost one for every classroom. But what we don't have is not every school has a technology program. So you all probably heard me share this story before if you've been following around on the listening tour trail. And so when there are issues with the smart board and we need to troubleshoot, there's not often someone in the building who can address those concerns. So we've got to think about investing again in certain areas, and we've got to think about streamlining in other areas because we only have, dollars and cents are a finite amount for us, and that's the reality of the world that we live in. So, the last part of that promise is that we're going to be transparent with you in our decision making, and moving forward, we're going to share out quarterly reports of our financial circumstances and make sure that folks understand. There was a financial audit that was shared last week, which at times I felt was a little bit confusing and misleading. There were a lot of kind of accounting issues that went there, that went into the conversation that didn't kind of fully reflect the state of affairs that we're in, and we're going to make sure, starting the next board meeting, that we share out some of those details to you. Because these are real structural challenges that we're facing, and we need to come at them together. So this is just a summary of the 5 promises. We didn't spend too much time on this. And I want to give you all, as promised, a go-back update. So we are still going through the process, and as far as next steps go, that I want to make clear to this group, I understand their anxieties here. In some respects, it's the elephant in the room, and we're here to have this conversation together. There's not anything new to share out today, but later this week, we will make clear that out of the evaluation process, and the evaluation process, I think some of you know, involved a committee of 5 staff members and 2 board members that evaluated our 7 applicants. They're making a recommendation to me, and I'm then going to make my recommendation public this week. That then begins the community conversation. And so in the ensuing weeks, we are going to hold community town halls to discuss the applicants who we are recommending to move forward. And so in all likelihood, those community town halls will be on the week of February the 10th. We will issue a press release both to make clear the two applicants that are being recommended to have as part of our community dialogue, but also the logistics for those town halls, as I know a number of you may want to show up. So similar to what we did with the listening tour, we're going to think about the city in 4 large wards and make sure that we spread out the town halls geographically to make sure that all of our families have an opportunity to access them. And that information will be on our district website in the coming days. We're just finalizing those logistics, making sure we're staffed appropriately and that the space accommodates the needs. So again, later this week, we'll make clear the 1, 2, or 3 applicants that are being recommended, and then the week of the 10th, in all likelihood, we will have town hall conversations.